All right, hello there and welcome to another anatomy and physiology video. And in this one, we are going to be continuing our series and we're going to be looking at the two circulations in the body, the pulmonary circulation and the systemic circulation. So let us begin. So we have here a diagram that shows us the two circuits or circulations, the pulmonary and the systemic. And we have the heart here, and it looks like it has these pipes attached to it, a pipe attaching to the lungs, and then a pipe going to the body. Now, this shows us the two circuits, but this isn't how it actually looks in your body anatomically. It's just giving us a concept of how the two circuits work. So don't let the diagram here so much get to you, but just try to grasp the concept as we go on. Now, let us start with the pulmonary circuit right here. Now, how does this work? Well, basically what happens is deoxygenated blood is going to receive oxygen at the lungs. So how does this happen? Well, we have deoxygenated blood that comes into the right atrium. Then from there, it goes down to the right ventricle and is shot up to the pulmonary trunk right here. And then it goes to the pulmonary arteries. And you have left pulmonary arteries and right pulmonary arteries. And it goes to the lungs, and here it receives its oxygen. And then it goes out to the pulmonary veins. We have right pulmonary veins and left pulmonary veins. And then it goes into the left atrium right here. And this whole circuit or system right here is known as the pulmonary circuit. So we're taking deoxygenated blood and we're giving it oxygen at the lungs, and then we're bringing it back into the heart right here. So that's the first circuit. Now, the second circuit that we have is known as the systemic circuit or the systemic circulation. And what happens here is that this oxygenated blood is going to then travel to the entire body. And once the oxygen is depleted, the blood returns back to the heart. So from the left atrium right here, this oxygenated blood goes down to the left ventricle. Then it is shot up to the aorta with a lot of pressure. And then it goes to the various parts of the body to deliver off the oxygen. So your toe cells that need oxygen, or your finger cells that need oxygen, the cells in your brain that need oxygen. That's where the blood goes, and it delivers this oxygen off. But once the oxygen is delivered off, the blood needs to receive more oxygen again. So what happens? This blood from the body goes back to the heart, and it's going to enter into the heart through the two vena cavas right here. We have the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. The superior takes blood from the top of your body, and the inferior takes blood from the lower part of your body. And then it's going to enter into the right atrium, and then the pulmonary circuit is going to start again. So that's how the two circuits work, or the two circulation systems work. And it's interesting to note that the pulmonary circuit relies on the right ventricle as it's pumped to push the blood out, while the systemic circulation relies on the left ventricle to push the blood out to the body. Now, there's a few tricky things in here that sometimes people have questions about, and we just want to cover them very quickly. And the first one is your red blood cells. Now, what are they? Red blood cells are bags of hemoglobin which carry oxygen in the body to the tissues. And the question is, if red blood cells are carrying the oxygen to the body, then how do they receive their own oxygen to function? And the answer is they don't, because red blood cells do not have a mitochondria, which are small organelles inside of cells that use the oxygen. And since they don't have a mitochondria, they don't need oxygen. And red blood cells, interestingly enough, also do not have a nucleus. And here we have a picture of what red blood cells look like. So that covers the red blood cells. Now, what about the heart? How does the heart receive its oxygen if it's pumping out all of this oxygenated blood? And the answer is the heart receives its oxygen from the systemic circulation from two coronary arteries, which are the first branches off of the aorta. All right, so I've drawn out these green lines, which represent our coronary arteries, and these arteries actually take oxygenated blood back to the heart to supply it. And the heart, interestingly enough, also has coronary veins to dump off the deoxygenated blood back into the heart. And these coronary veins actually skip the superior and inferior vena cavas, and they drain directly into the right atrium. So we're going to have these coronary veins that dump back into the right atrium over here in a spot. And I've just drawn out a spot right here to better help us see it. And then we have the lungs as well. How do they receive oxygen? And the answer is the lungs receive their oxygen from the bronchial arteries coming off of the systemic circulation to the right and left lungs. And the lungs also have something known as bronchial veins that dump deoxygenated blood into the venous side of the systemic circulation. All right, so I've drawn out the bronchial arteries and the veins here. So in the green, we have our bronchial arteries that supply blood to the lungs. And then we have our bronchial veins over here that are taking the deoxygenated blood back to the venous side of the systemic circulation. And it's interesting too that we have blood mixing going on here. So we know that deoxygenated blood from the pulmonary circuit enters into the lungs right here. But we also have oxygenated blood from the systemic circulation coming into the lungs as well. So there's some blood mixing there. We also have blood mixing going on at the capillaries where the oxygen is exchanged. And it's interesting to note as well, and I have it written here, that most of the blood that goes out of the lungs actually goes out through the pulmonary veins and not so much goes out through the bronchial veins. So that's very interesting to note as well. So most of the blood that goes into the lungs goes out through the pulmonary veins, the right and left ones. So that's how the two circuits work in our body, the pulmonary circuit and the systemic circuit. I hope that you have a better understanding of these two systems now and that you will be able to use this information well. Now, this has been Kenneth Moore from Zion's Watchman Media, and we will see you in the next one. Until next time.